Well, they sent me to my first prison, which was in Indiana. And, I had never been to prison before in my life. So I just had to like kind of adapt to, what this new environment was going to be, right? You know what I'm saying? Which was very dangerous. It was I was in I had a life sentence. So I was in a maximum security prison. You're talking about a kid that went to college, that went to Mount St. Michael Academy, never been to prison. You dropped me in the center of maximum security prison for the first time.
Welcome to the King's Code Podcast. Welcome to the King's Code Podcast. My name is Raul Villacis, and today we're going to talk to an individual that has overcome what the fear that most of us have. What's the fear that most of men have? Is the fear of our freedom being taken away. Like, you just imagine being told that you are going to receive a life sentence. What does that mean to you? How would you react if you were told that you were going to be given a life sentence? Not just one, 16 life sentences. So I want you to hear from this man that I'm going to bring into this podcast, because I believe that his story has a powerful message for every single one of us in order for us not to take for granted what we have right now, which is our freedom. Corey Jacobs, welcome to the King's Code Podcast, brother.
Welcome, my brother. I'm proud to be here.
Man, I'm excited for this podcast, man, because I want to hear your story. I know we have a lot of mutual friends. Yeah. You've done a couple podcasts from some of the guys in the Edge Brotherhood. So
right, that's right.
Let's begin. Give us a little bit of a background story of how you got started and what happened that you got that
16 life sentences.
That's 16 life sentences.
I mean, well, first of all, I'm Corey Jacobs. I'm born and raised in the Bronx, New York. Raised by my grandmother. My father was an immigrant from Africa, came in when he was 12 from Sierra Leone, worked at a food stand, had to make his way up, ended up incarcerated. Married my mother, who was from the West Indies, and they had a child, a little Corey. At some point in time, my mother, after my father went to prison, really didn't handle his responsibilities. So I ended up with grandma. Not many people end up with grandma. They got to take on the duties of their children. She gave me a great life. I ended up going to Catholic school, Mount St. Michael Academy, an all-boys Catholic school. Got a great education. I had some stumbling blocks along the way, but I made it through and ended up going to college. Everybody says Corey's a genius. I mean, he loves computers. Figuring out the Rubik's Cube. I was taking my computer apart, writing code, and it was like, maybe Corey should go into engineering, computer science, and I tested into school, and I ended up going to SUNY New Paltz, upstate New York.
So you were good in school?
Yeah, I was great at math and science. I think I had a gift for figuring things out, which, will play out later in the conversation.
I used to hate school, man. I remember I graduated high school, Corey, with the education that I got from Ecuador in my elementary school. Because I used to go to school and skip every single time that I had.
Right.
When I graduated high school, actually my girlfriend, my wife now, she helped me pass all those tests.
Right.
But I went to college, community college 1 year, and I'm like, man, this is not for me. Because I hated going to school. I hated just sitting there in the desk. But you liked it. You thrive in school.
I think I thrived in environments that, help your creativity, right? And I think at Mount St. Michael, and it was an all boys school, right? So you didn't have the distraction.
There was no distractions. Yeah, that's the problem with me. It wasn't an old boys. There were a lot of girls that would take my attention in school. So
no, listen, I didn't like it one bit. I even tried to get kicked out of school. It was so serious. I was like, I didn't understand why we would make schools without.
But they taught you discipline at that point.
Yeah, taught me discipline and a lot of things that you teach the people that are part of the Edge, right? It's that brotherhood. It's like we call each other Mounties even to this day. It created a bond that's just a lifetime bond because, of the things that when young men get together,
Were you part of a fraternity? Did you join a fraternity when you were?
I never joined a fraternity when I went to school because things kind of took another turn, but I was thinking about it because all the fraternities wanted me. Everybody was wooing me, trying to get me, to join the fraternity because I was coming from New York City. I was going upstate and, I was, considered a pretty cool guy, but I ended up being too cool for my own good.
Right. So you were raised, but just before you go into it, you were raised by your grandmother. That's one thing that we have in common. I was just telling the story of our lunch. Yeah. We had lunch and how my grandmother and my grandfather raised me when my parents migrated to the United States.
Right.
And let me tell you, grandmothers and grandparents, they're tough, man.
They are.
They're tough, man. I remember getting my ass beat by my grandmother.
Right.
If I was out of hand.
Right.
She will come out with a belt and then eventually the iron.
Right, the iron cord.
Iron,
the iron
cord.
cord.
And that was when I saw the iron cord, man. Oh, I had to be good.
Well, listen, my grandfather, he was in the service, but he was also the first captain of corrections on Rikers Island. So back in the day, you're talking about disciplinarian. He could just look at you and it would freeze you in your tracks.
My grandfather had a belt that all he had to do is hang it in his room and just point at it, and you're like, okay, I don't want the smoke.
Yeah,
I don't want the smoke.
No,
I'll be good.
100%. Yeah, I had an incredible experience with my grandparents, and my grandmother specifically. She's the reason why I have an outlook on the life that I have today. And
so I think that's needed nowadays, a little more discipline. I mean, obviously not at that extreme. I joke around with my kids all the time. They think I'm lying, all the stories that I tell them.
Right.
But that was extreme. I think that we, but we're lacking some type of discipline now in today's kids. But go on. So what happened when you went to school?
Oh yeah, so I ended up going. I had a lot of my friends that graduated high school ended up going to historical Black colleges and universities in the South. I was literally the only person, other than one of my buddies who went to UConn, right? He went to UConn that didn't go to historical Black college. So now I'm in New York. I mean, I'm upstate during the weekends. I'm going to visit during homecomings. I'm having so much fun. I've never been around this many of, just people of color. And I started feeling like I was missing out on the best years of my life, right? At that particular time. So I made a questionable decision, which, what ended up being a wrong decision, to transfer colleges after being on the dean's list and everything going amazing, to go to school down south to Norfolk State, Virginia. And that's when this thing turned upside down.
Wow, so you wanted to be the cool kid?
I wanted to be cool, so I wanted to have fun. Instead of going to be the engineering major and doing that and not understanding it was only 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We think as a young person, you're 18, 19, 20, you feel like you're missing out on something, right?
Yeah, you feel like 4 years is a lifetime.
4 years is a lifetime. I'll be like, if 8 more years after that, I might not be here no more. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So, and that was just an error in judgment on my part, right? And it comes from, just things that we've even talked about, at lunch, and, about trauma that you encounter as a child. And sometimes it causes you to make decisions that are probably not in your best interest for reasons that you don't really realize, right? And I really wasn't able to unwind that and really understand that was a part of the whole reason why I ended up in prison until I really got into my sentence and I started really going down there, going closer to that edge like you talk about.
So you went down to Virginia. You wanted to be part of the of the cool crowd. What happened that got you into
No, what
trouble?
happened was that, I had to pay for school because I was supposed to get financial aid, but that never came through, and how we was trying to work, right, put together. And I ended up having to just be down there and have to skip a semester because I didn't have the finances. So now I seen other college kids that was down there supplementing their income, selling weed and doing things like that. And they was paying for school and getting them the little things that they need while they was in college. And I was like, well, I fought it for a good 6 months. But then after a while, it was like, why not? Should I have nice things as well? Right? So, and I figured I only do it for a little bit, just so I can get the things that I needed. And that's anything in life. Once, you get into something with a certain intention and then it grows and grows and then greed can set in and then you start getting, well, I'll just get a little more because I can do this and I can just get a little more and a little more. And next thing you know, you got yourself into something deeper than you ever imagined. Right? Yeah. So from there, I finally got my mind together, right? I realized that I was just great at marketing. I was a great leader. I was great at sales, you know what I'm saying, obviously. And people were talking to me, older men, people that knew me, they was like, Corey, you had so much promise. What made you go that way? Or if at least it's time to stop. You know what I'm saying? Because only two things can happen. You can end up in jail or dead. And for some reason, I had an epiphany, and I heed those warnings. And I left school. I went back to New York, and I started looking for other ways to make money that wouldn't even land me in prison or take my life.
So
I got
you didn't
into
get in trouble when you were in Virginia.
Yeah, that's
you,
when
you picked up the trade when you were in Virginia.
Yep.
And then you went back
to New York, a newfound person. I went legit. Right. And then this is the advent of kind of how, just hip hop started to grow and I started to see an opportunity to monetize the culture. So I took like, some of my business acumen. I started a limousine company. I had a gas station in the Bronx. I started selling merchandise, coming up with all these kind of scenes that individuals was used on rap records. And I would just be selling t-shirts, and then that got me into parties and concerts overseas, and everything is going amazing. Now I'm managing artists. And like I said earlier, like in life, you're gonna do things, and sometimes those things catch up with you more times than not. So, and that came in the form of an indictment from the stuff that I did in Virginia. 2 years later, I got indicted for the stuff I did back when I was in college, which
So it came
led
back
me
to hunt you. So you escaped that. You thought you escaped.
thought
it.
I escaped.
You thought you're gonna be legit, and that's
Yeah.
it. But now, like, there's always a price to pay.
There's always a price to pay, right? And and so I ended up going to trial. I got apprehended. I went to trial, and ultimately got 16 life sentences.
How did they go from six? I mean, how many sentences does a
Can you
guy
do?
for murder get?
Yeah, maybe life, not even.
But and you get 16 life for
sentences
selling
for
for selling weed.
Yeah, no weed, and there was a little bit of drugs like cocaine as well, but it was
But
zero.
but why 16 life sentences?
It was zero. It was zero violence in the case and zero drug seized, right? And so at the end of the day, the laws at that particular time, they had the crack era. They were charging you 100 to 1
So
ratio.
they wanted just to scare people to say,
Yeah, they
hey,
wanted to
this
get,
is what
and I got
happens if you
kind
go
of
this.
caught up in the net, right? So
Yeah.
you got 16 life sentences. I mean,
And how old were you?
I was 22.
Wow, I can't imagine. 22 years
No,
old.
well, that's when I called my indictment. No, when they ended up catching me, I was actually 30. Because I didn't tell you I went on a run for 7 years because I heard you can get life.
Okay. All right,
Let's
so
go
that-
on the roller coaster. Let's go.
So you catch an indictment. So you went
Yeah, I
on a
catch
run.
an indictment, right? And it wasn't just me. I had other people that had got caught up that had stayed in the game, and that's kind of how I got dragged in. And I heard they said, well, listen, you can get life for this. I was like, life for what? He said, no, you don't even have to ever have a gram of drugs or no violence. And that just really scared me. You know what I'm saying? So I said, listen, they didn't come get me. I knew they had a warrant out for me. I just never turned myself in. And it took about 6 years before them to apprehend me. And ultimately, I got caught in California.
Yeah, and that's when the shit hit the fan.
Yeah, but I still had the indictment. That didn't get me to 16 life sentences, right? 16, I would have got 16 life sentences regardless. If I would have got caught day one. You know what I mean?
So now you get the news and you get caught. What goes through your mind at that point? Like, what was your,
That goes to
was
my
your
mind.
process?
I mean, initially it was almost a sign of relief, right?
Because you've been in the run for 6 years.
Yeah, I've been on a run. It's like I had so much potential. I had so many dreams, so many things that I wanted to do in life. And I feel like those bad decisions that I made initially derailed my entire life and took it on a path that, that I wasn't sure when it ever was going to end.
One of the reasons I wanted to have this podcast is because we're launching a program for young men, the Edge Next, and we really want to help young men understand that there is opportunities.
Yes, right.
That right now, like the way that the world is going, like it is the biggest opportunity for a young man to level up and increase his leadership skills because that's what's going to get him paid. But also,
100%.
I want them to hear the story because whatever you do has consequences. I tell my son, he's just turned 18.
That's right.
Took him to Cancun with 4 of his friends. Sat him down and said, listen, whatever you do here is going to hunt you back in the States.
That's right.
So whatever happens in Cancun, it doesn't stay in Cancun, it's going to hunt you, whatever decisions you make. So make sure that the choices that you make are going to, you're going to be able to live with those choices because they're always going to come back to you.
100%.
So now you get the news that you were going to go to jail for 16 life sentences. You realize that, you can't escape your past.
That's right.
What happened next?
Yeah, what happened next? Well, they sent me to my first prison, which was in Indiana. And, I have never been to prison before in my life. So I just had to kind of adapt to, what this new environment was going to be, right? You know what I'm saying? Which was very dangerous. It was I was in I had a life sentence. So I was in a maximum security prison. You're talking about a kid that went to college, you know what I'm saying? That went to Mount St. Michael Academy, never been to prison. You dropped me in the center of maximum security prison for the first time.
Man,
it's like, it's a hell of a pill to swallow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's like, what have I done? You're feeling like to be one of the people out of the 8 billion people in the world that have life in prison. What did I do to deserve that? And I really didn't feel like the sentence, I knew the sentence didn't justify the crime. So, it was always like my hope and always, I always felt like this wasn't the end. You know what I'm saying? And it was just things that I needed to come inside of there to learn not about just about the world, but learn about myself.
So you immediately felt like, man, I'm gonna appeal this. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
fight
yeah.
it.
You have
I'm not
hopes.
gonna-
Yeah, for the first 5 years, you have hope, right? You like,
Yeah.
oh, I got to appeal. I got 16 life sentences. This isn't right. Somebody's gonna know,
Yeah.
right? That
So you had
somebody's
that
gonna
hope, yeah.
correct this, right? And then there was a law that came out, right? Around the time that I got sentenced that said I should never get over 20 years maximum, for this particular case. And my lawyer didn't argue it, right? So I had that hope there, right? It could have been 12 years instead of life, or 20 the max. Really, 20 was the max. And then I filed appeal after appeal. Even though I had them dead to right, I still was denied my appeal because they have things like harmless error and these different things, and changing the Supreme Court law. And I ended up, and I realized at that moment, that this wasn't going to be a sprint. When I lost my last appeal, this is going to be a marathon. And if
How long were you there until you realized, like, man, I need to?
Maybe about 8 years.
So 8 years in, shit, 8 years. I mean, talking about not losing hope, man. Like, walk me through, like, what will you tell yourself? What were you telling yourself not to lose hope, not to lose faith?
That, that God has a greater purpose for me.
It was faith. It was God.
It was faith. It was faith. Yeah, no, it was definitely my faith that I'm here for a reason. And, my grandmother always tell me that, that I'm gonna do some great things in the world. As a young boy, when she took me in and wrapped her arms around me, and I could just hear her voice saying, like, when I would talk to her on the phone, she's like, this isn't the end of your story, but you're gonna have to fight. And Corey, you've always had to fight.
One of the things that I tell myself when I go through a challenge is like, God is gonna use this for His benefit.
That's right.
Like, how is God gonna? So I'm assuming you got really close to God at that.
Yeah.
That
My
point.
own personal relationship, really just going within myself, right, and really going and finding my purpose. You know what I'm saying? And adding value to wherever I was at, right? I knew that God wanted me to be inside of a prison for certain reasons, right? So what I started doing, I started looking at, what am I great at? I was great at communicating. I had a great, handle on like the industry, the culture, the music business, entrepreneurship. I had went to college. I was on the dean's list. I was like, what can I do? And what was happening was that I seen inmates started to complain that there wasn't given enough programming there, from the outside coming in. And, and I'm not, being an engineering student or just having a mindset around being solution-based. I'm never one to really whine. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the one. I'm like, how can we get to a solution? If it's not being given to us, how do we go help ourselves? So I created a program called Square Up Now, from criminality to legality, our best and only option, right?
Awesome.
And that was a boot camp kind of a thing where we had 25 classes around self-development. So I started looking at curriculums that I did in college. I try to see, like, what do people need that are in there that can help change their thinking so that when they come out, they can be productive members of society. And it was all of the soft skills, how to communicate, how to study, what kind of books to read, self-help books. I would get individuals from all walks of life that was experts in their fields, right? And come in and teach these classes to these inmates and utilize things that was exciting to them. So for me, I taught a class called Chess for Life because I was playing chess since I was a kid and I had got a pretty good mastery of the game. So I started teaching chess according to life's principles. And I taught that for 10 years and it was the most popular class in the prison, right? So I just kept going. I started adding classes and I built a nice, strong program to help promote individuals bettering themselves, right? And at the same time, while I was doing that, right, I was bettering myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like everything that I try to do, and even I try to do things that can help me, even if it was chess. I'm playing chess, but at the same time, I'm learning things, right? I'm learning about patience. I'm learning about sacrifice.
I think that's one of the biggest gifts that I receive of being a coach and mentor for other men is whatever I teach, I learn more deeper.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think everybody should make the intention to be a teacher, to be a mentor, to kind of give back, because that will only anchor those teachings to yourself. Right. So now you use the experience that you have, then you started using it to give back to the community within the jail community.
Yes.
And how did you eventually end up getting out? What happened?
So ultimately, it was my goal to like show my worth, right? To show that I was an incarcerated asset, that I was a person that didn't deserve to die in prison. So in everything, I got up every single day, and everything that I did was to push forward to show that given another opportunity, I could be great. And not just in what I'm saying and what I'm doing every day and the lives that I'm touching. So ultimately, I remember when, I remember when President Obama came into office in 2008, right? And understanding the nature of politics and how things are going, I felt like since I had lost all my appeals, what I wanted to do was take that same concept, right, and market it, create a brand which I called Ready for Freedom, Corey Jacobs Ready for Freedom, and I went on an 8-year consistent focus on accomplishing the goal of freedom, right, and through the clemency process, right. So I said by 2008, on Obama's second term, I'm going to get clemency from President Obama.
Wow. So
that was a goal.
That was a goal.
I set an 8-year goal.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And
8-year goal. So
think
people
how
have a
much
hard time putting a year resolution. You have to go far and said 8 years from now.
I had to, because I had to look at the reality. What was the chances of it happening in the first term, right? If I had any kind of chance, it would have been at the end of his last term when it would probably feel a little more safe. And, ultimately on December 19th, 2016, I got the call, saying that, I got the call that the pardon attorney sent over the paperwork, and my lawyer, letting me know, she said, Corey, President Obama just signed your clemency.
Wow. It's amazing.
You're going to be free.
It's amazing. And did you have to meet President Obama?
No, I haven't had a chance to meet President Obama yet. So, he wrote me a letter, and obviously it's a letter just saying to Corey, I'm giving you a second chance.
Wow.
Because I believe that you earned it, right? And that, and give you an opportunity to prove the doubters wrong. You know what I'm saying? So me sitting here today, I'm on the edge. I'm visiting with you. I've made so many great, connections, and I'm doing so many things that I'm passionate about. I feel like I'm well on the way of proving the doubters wrong.
That's awesome. It's awesome, man. And that just gives me chills just to kind of, imagine like what it felt like to receive your freedom back, to have a second chance. A lot of men don't have the opportunity, the blessing to have a second chance. So tell us what you're doing now. Like what are you excited about now?
One of the things, like you said, a lot of people are blessed enough to feel what it's like to get that type of second chance where you just lost your life in all accounts and then you get it back. So, first thing I did was started an organization that I co-founded with an attorney her name is Brittany K. Barnett, who sacrificed her job. This young lady was an attorney, 32 years old, went to SMU, graduated, took my case at 32 and resigned from her job and said, Corey, I'm going to get you out of it. It's the last thing I do because you're going to change the world.
Wow.
And 10 months later, after meeting this young lady, right, I was free. Right. So then when I got out, she was like, okay, look, I quit my job. What are we going to do? You know what I'm saying? Let's go do some world changing. And we partnered, and we co-founded along with her first client, Sharonda Jones. We started the Buried Alive Project, right? The Buried Alive Project was, its goal is to go after these life sentences for drugs for nonviolent offenses, right? And to this day, I'm proud to say that we're at 60 lifers out of prison.
Wow, that's
60
awesome.
lifers out of prison that otherwise would be dying in jail, that these men and women could come back to their kids, their grandkids, fathers can come back to their sons so that they can show their sons the way, and tell and let them learn from their mistakes, right? We need more fathers in the house, like we was just talking about. We need fathers in the household, and by not having fathers in the household, that is decimating our communities.
100%, man, 100%. And look, that's why God got you into that.
Yes.
So He sent you into the lion's den so you could free other men from the lion's den.
That's right. That's right.
That's
right.
awesome. That's
That's
awesome.
right. That's right. So I'm really proud of that. After that, my love of chess, I'm on the board of, the Gift of Chess, which is an organization. The Gift of Chess is an organization that distributes chessboards all around the world, right? We done distribute about 75,000 chessboards to Africa alone. Right, we sending them in all the prison systems, Kansas. We sent 500 to Rikers Island. We got refugee, like some of the refugees that are coming in. We done created chess programs and chess clubs for them so that they keep them busy, and they're not going from not knowing how to play chess at all to literally thriving, taking a group around and beating players that's been playing for years. You know what I'm saying? And that lets you know all you got to do is just spark it in the young person's mind. So I'm going to Ghana, the top of the year to we have 5,000 pairs of sneakers with an organization called Afrikicks that I partnered with, right? We have 15,000 chess sets sitting there in a container ready to distribute to the communities, right? Awesome. And distribute to the prisons. I'm going to go inside of the prisons and, talk about the Buried Alive project to people over there in Africa and, and kind of like just give them hope. Let them know that I had life in prison and that everybody said my life was over. And, and if it wasn't for my belief in myself and belief in a higher power as well that was working through me for a greater cause, I wouldn't be standing before y'all today. I'm going to tell them that my father's from Africa and I'm back at the continent for the first time. These type of things of that nature.
What I like about your message, what I'm hearing from your message is really, you represent hope in action. Like faith without action is dead, right? So you got hope that turned into faith, but then you also put in the work, because unless you're putting in the work, you're not going to get the results that you want.
Right.
I think that a lot of men right now, they're just putting all their faith and their hope in somebody else to help them, somebody else to save them. They're not willing to do it themselves. And I think that's where you come in when you said 17 life sentences. Okay, nobody's going to come save me, obviously.
No, 100%. Nobody's going to bring me no tea. If you get sick, nobody's going to drag me out to work out and take care of myself. Nobody's going to be there to coddle me, right? So that's when you have to go within. You know what I'm saying? When you go within yourself and see how far you can go, right, to fix all these various traumas that you have. And then a lot of people don't come out though, right? And that's the sad part of it.
We were talking about this, how like the inner work, like right now, man, somebody asked me like, where do you see the state of men? Men have become very soft in this culture because they don't know how to deal with their emotions.
Right.
We come from a school, from our previous generation that is like, fuck your emotions. You don't have any emotions. Don't cry.
Right.
And we just bottle them up.
No, right.
Now we have this new generation that they're so emotional. They're just so in touch with their feelings, but they don't know how to operate with those emotions. So when I hear somebody like you that has 16 life sentences, you have to be a tough motherfucker to be able to not just survive in the prison, but also get out from that imprisonment mind.
Exactly.
So to tell us, what did you do in order for you to get out of that prison in your mind first before you find your freedom?
Yeah, well, I came up with a slogan, right? I feel like words are very powerful, and I remember being locked in a hole for like 2 years. 2 months this particular time, and I would always order these various books. So I ordered a book called Find Your One Sentence. Right, Find Your One Sentence, and I had a cellmate, so a lot of things are competitive. It's like, let's see who can find the best one sentence. Yeah. And what ended up happening, I came up with the sentence, you can't cage determination, right? You can't cage determination. I'm sitting in a cell. There's bars on the windows, right? And I'm trying to think of a word that can empower me, right? That can get up every morning and I can look to and say, I'm stronger because of it. So I came up with the word, you can't cage determination. And I put it on my bulletin board. And every single day that I would get up, I would look at that word for inspiration. Wow. Meaning you can't cage determination is that you can't cage my will to want to be free. And not just free in a physical form, free mentally. Yeah. That you got my body, but I'm not going to let you cage my mind, right? So when you're saying what I did, I came up with my one sentence, right? That I can drive me to freedom, right? And be a powerful sentence of like, I'm not going for this, right? And I'm not going for this. And sometimes that we need that, we need that.
You're right, words are powerful. And every year I come up with a word that's going to take me through the entire year. And this year, 2024, my word is standards.
Right.
Like your life is a reflection of your standards. Your bank account is a reflection of your standards. Your health is a reflection of your standards. Your relationships are a reflection of your standards. So I'm constantly looking, how can I improve my standards? And what you did is you created a word that represents who you were becoming. That at that moment, every single time that you said that word, that you read that word, you were becoming that man. You were embodying that man.
That's right. And when you become, and that's what it's really all about. This is like about the person that you're becoming, right? Because if you be what it is, That's what it's going to be. And your outside is going to reflect that now.
Yeah.
So when my inner mind became free,
You
them
manifested.
doors got unlocked, right?
Yeah.
I attracted Brittany. Brittany came. She took my case. What's the chance at the 10th hour that you're going to get an attorney who went to college an entire time? She's not even a criminal attorney and quit her corporate job to get you out unless you put the work in.
Well, that's what you see God's work. You know, God is
Exactly.
working in your life. God is working in my life. God is always putting people together to fulfill His purpose. So, where are you going? What's the vision? Like,
Yeah, the vision is, I'm a brand person, so I always try to look at what kind of movement can I create, right? That has contagion. What kind of brand that I create that can stand up against Nike or Gatorade or any brand, right? Because I feel like it needs to be that strong that also embodies the person that I've become, right? And that brand is Winergy. Right? Winergy, taking winning and energy and bringing it together, right? And Winergy is the energy to me and mindset to win in any circumstance. You understand?
That's why you and I are very
Yeah.
much alike, because like the edge for me represents energy,
Yes.
determination,
Yes.
to be guided to execute. So
That's
without
right.
energy, there's nothing. Like
That's
you have
right.
to
That's
have
right.
energy to be able to execute, right?
That's
but you
right.
also have to have that winning attitude, that
That's right.
mentality, that mindset that you cannot cage determination.
And no, it's exactly. So, and Winergy is just all about partnerships. I know we met through a partner of mine named Sam Tejada, who owns Liquid Vita, and and I'm also a partner. And the way we're collaborating on the Liquid Vita and bringing the mindset about caring more about your health, right? Because health and investing in yourself, that's is the biggest equity that you can have,
Yep.
right? Is in your health, right? So I like to get in businesses that can also help me, like we talked about earlier, right? I get into the health and wellness business, right? That is something I need to be on, right? Get into businesses that you enjoy. Get into things that are pouring into other people, and you're going to be blessed. And I feel like I was blessed because I stayed true to myself. I locked into my purpose. I helped people every chance I got, and I was blessed with an angel to come help me to get me back to the other side so I can continue to do the work that I was doing.
Right. I'm excited to see what God has in store for you, brother. Like
Yes.
this is an amazing story. I know
Yes.
that Winergy is gonna be a brand that's gonna blow up. I'm excited to
And I
collaborate with you.
I got a hoodie for you. You're all black with the black
love it, man.
Winergy
Love
on
it. Like that's I think that God is putting people together right now in this moment because there's something that's going to happen that's going to
Yes.
need every single leader up there to rise.
That's right.
Because nothing is going to happen unless leaders stand up for their truth, leaders rise to fight this battle, because the best is yet to come. And if you don't believe that with every single cell in your body, you're going to be a victim of the circumstances.
Right.
2024 is going to be a very interesting year.
Yes, yes.
So, I'm excited that you have this winning energy to be able to take it to the next level.
I was excited to come here. I was excited to get to the edge. I was excited to share my story because, like, you're my kind of guy, man. You're my kind of guy. You out here doing the work and you out here building people up, and you're going to be even more blessed for it.
I think that we need to kind of spread this message to more and more people.
Yes, I
to understand that it's not about what happens to you, it's about how you react to what happens to you. Because you right now, man, 16 life sentences. Anybody would have said, you know what, my life is over. I'm done.
Right.
But you found it within yourself to keep on fighting.
Right.
To find a solution instead of living on the problem.
Right. And I think, if I could say one last thing, I think that's the difference maker, right? If a lot of people say, like, how did you make it through almost 2 decades in the most violent prison of nothing but hopelessness and despair and lack of opportunity? I believe that the degree to which a person gets into something and how long you stay there, right? How long are you going to be laid up, curled up in the bed, crying or complaining about what you can't control, right? And the quicker you can get to the solution, you can feel it. It's okay. Feel it. It happened. Do whatever you need to release it, but then move on to the solution. The quicker you're able to do that, the better off you'll be.
And there's zero upside of being a victim of your circumstances.
No,
All the
no.
upside is focusing on the solution of the problem.
No, 100%. And letting go. It's important. to let your past go and forgive yourself, obviously, for your bad decisions that you've made, and just try to be better for it.
Awesome. Thank
right.
you for coming to the podcast, brother.
Listen,
I want to
I
put your
appreciate
socials here in the bio, and guys, connect with Corey.
Yes.
This is the beginning of a great collaboration. I can't wait
Yep.
to see what 2024 has in store for you, brother.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Let's bring
Two
that
claps.
Winergy meets the edge.
Let's go.
Winergy meets the edge.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and get ready for the epic 2024. Learn it, live it, experience it. Love
Let's
life.
go, baby. All right.
If you're ready to find the edge, go to kingscodebook.com to get the latest copy of my book, The King's Code. This book will help you find the clarity, the certainty, and the purpose that you need in order for you to lead with power. Go to kingscodebook.com and find your code to the edge now.